if the trash in your backyard could turn into the most beautiful part of your garden? Welcome to Verdant Dreams, where we explore creative DIY trash garden ideas that transform waste into wonder. In this video, you'll discover inspirations for tiny yards, patios, and backyards, colorful, thrifty, and truly unique. We've added timestamps, so feel free to jump to what inspires you most. And if you have questions, share them in the comments. Maybe to you, I'm just another voice on a screen. But behind this content, there's a real story, and a family building dreams one idea at a time. This isn't just another video, it's a piece of my heart. Every like, every comment, every subscribe, it truly matters. When you subscribe, you're not just helping a creator grow, you're keeping a dream alive. You're giving a small family hope, one click at a time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing me. In the quiet charm of a cottage-style garden, where colors meet the scent of blooming flowers, something unexpected can redefine beauty: the humble drum. Once discarded, rusting at the edges of a forgotten workshop, these drums now rise again as rustic borders, painted with life and layered with stories. Each curve of their metal tells of labor once done, but today, they stand as guardians of blooms. Along the winding path of a tiny yard, drums cut into half-moons create an edging that feels both sturdy and welcoming. Painted in farmhouse pastels, soft sage green, muted cream, and pale blue, they echo the gentle spirit of countryside mornings. Around them, chrysanthemums lift their bright heads, marigolds glow like golden lanterns, and asters spill purple stars across the soil. The garden feels stitched together by memory and freshness, where the old and the new coexist. Step into the backyard, and the story shifts with autumn hues. Here, rustic reds and mustard yellows brush across the curved metal. Sedum autumn joy leans lazily over the edge, while Japanese anemones stand tall, their delicate petals swaying like dancers in the cool air. The drums are not just borders, they are canvases where seasons paint themselves in vivid tones. In the front yard, whimsy arrives in rainbow streaks. Every drum shines a different color, like a row of joyful children's toys, creating edging that feels playful yet artistic. Between them, herbs push through with deep greens, releasing fresh scents of rosemary and thyme. Bees hum, butterflies pause, and the drums seem to sing quietly under the weight of their new purpose. What was once trash, unwanted and heavy, becomes treasure in the garden. Painted and placed with care, these rustic drum borders whisper of resilience. They prove that beauty does not always come from the delicate, it can rise from strength, from steel, from the unexpected marriage of metal and bloom. In these tiny yards and beloved patios, drums no longer keep rhythm for factories. Instead, they hold the gentle music of flowers, laughter, and life lived close to nature. fence of a garden is often the first thing the eye meets, a frame for the beauty inside. But what if that frame itself becomes a canvas of delight? In a tiny cottage yard, plastic bottles, once destined for trash, are reborn as blossoms. Cut, painted, and carefully shaped, they line the fence like a parade of eternal flowers. Each bottle tells a story of transformation. Their once transparent skins, dull and overlooked, are now vibrant petals of red, yellow, and blue. Fixed against rustic wood, they gleam under the sunlight, casting soft glimmers that dance across the garden. Around them, marigolds glow in warm orange, asters scatter purple stars, and chrysanthemums gather in radiant clusters. Together, they weave a tapestry of color where real flowers meet crafted ones, alive, fresh, and endlessly blooming. Step into the backyard patio, and the magic deepens. A wooden fence carries daisies and sunflowers, each petal cut from bottles and painted in joyful tones. They tower like cheerful guardians above the lush greenery, as Japanese anemones stretch with elegance below. Here, plastic does not feel like waste, it feels like celebration. The fence has become more than a boundary, it is a mural of hope and creativity. In a small side garden, bamboo poles rise, soft and simple. From them hang garlands of pastel blossoms, crafted from transparent bottles softened by gentle hues. They sway with the wind, catching the light like drops of frozen rainbows. Beneath, sedum glows pink in autumn's chill, while cottage flowers bloom in layers of texture and scent. This fence whispers of thrift, of making beauty from what was once considered worthless. Children stop and stare, neighbors smile as they pass, and gardeners pause to admire the unlikely union of plastic and petal. No rust, no decay, just fresh color painted with care, keeping the garden alive even when the seasons turn cold. The plastic bottle blossom fence is not only a design, it is a declaration. It says that no space is too small to bloom, no material too humble to shine. In tiny yards and cherished backyards, these fences carry joy, not just for the garden, but for every soul that sees them and dares to dream of color in unexpected places. At the heart of a backyard, where laughter often lingers and quiet evenings stretch into gentle nights, a pergola stands, not of polished wood or cold steel, but of bamboo and bottles reborn. This simple structure, woven from nature and thrift, rises with elegance above a small garden, casting patterns of shadow and light that dance with the breeze. Bamboo, tall and golden, forms the bones of this pergola. Its natural strength is humble yet enduring, carrying the weight of blooms and dreams alike. But what makes this pergola sing are the bottles, once discarded, now shimmering jewels. Painted in emerald, sapphire, and ruby, they hang like lanterns that capture the sun by day and the moon by night. Around them, chrysanthemums and marigolds climb, weaving golden threads through the bamboo frame. The garden feels like a festival, eternal and alive. In a tiny yard, softer tones take shape. Bottle bottoms are cut and transformed into delicate blossoms, their pastel hues echoing the petals of asters and Japanese anemones that grow beneath. The pergola itself feels like an artwork, crafted not by wealth but by imagination, turning humble scraps into something enchanting. Here, every glance upward meets a sky framed with color, light, and the gentle sway of blooms. On a small patio, the pergola becomes more intimate. Bottles, left transparent, are strung into garlands that glisten with captured light. Among them, sedum, autumn joy, leans into its rosy glow, while cottage roses twine lovingly along the bamboo poles. When the evening comes, candles beneath cast gentle light through the bottles, scattering soft rainbows across the paving stones. It is a place for tea, for whispered stories, for the warmth of belonging. This backyard bamboo and bottle pergola is not just shelter, it is inspiration. It whispers that beauty can be built from what is simple, that joy can grow from what was once discarded. Each bottle, each pole of bamboo, each bloom that twines through the structure tells a tale of resilience and renewal. In small spaces and tiny gardens, it offers a place of wonder, a reminder that nature and creativity can always join hands to build sanctuaries of color and peace. On the quiet edge of a cottage patio, where stone meets soil and the breeze carries the soft perfume of flowers, drums stand transformed. Once echoing with the sound of industry, they now bloom with the rhythm of life itself. Painted in soft farmhouse tones, creamy whites, mint greens, and pale lavenders, they no longer tell of rust or abandonment. Instead, they speak of renewal, each one cradling blossoms like a vessel of hope. In one corner, a drum planter rises, filled with chrysanthemums that scatter bursts of golden light. Beside it, asters paint the scene with delicate purples, while marigolds, warm and glowing, shine like tiny suns. Ivy curls at the base, softening the steel, weaving a bridge between the man-made and the natural. The patio feels alive, layered with color, strength, and softness. Further in the backyard, autumn's voice takes over. Here, drums are painted in terracotta, rustic red, and golden yellow, echoing the hues of falling leaves. From them spills sedum autumn joy, their rosy heads glowing against the season's chill, while Japanese anemones stand tall with petals like silk. The wooden fence nearby carries ivy in cascading trails, completing the rustic symphony of texture and tone. The space, once bare, now feels like an autumn canvas, warm, comforting, and endlessly inviting. In a tiny front yard, whimsy takes shape. Painted drums in vibrant palettes stand at varied heights, creating layers of color and bloom. Herbs peek between the flowers, rosemary, thyme, and mint, adding fragrance to the feast for the senses. It is a vignette of farmhouse charm, alive with the laughter of color and the intimacy of a garden that welcomes all who pass. These drum planters are more than containers. They are storytellers, reminding us that beauty can be found in the unexpected, that strength and softness can live in harmony. Where once they carried weight, now they carry life. Where once they stood silent, now they sing in blossoms and scents. On patios, in backyards, in tiny yards alike, they transform forgotten steel into a vision of possibility, proof that even the heaviest of things can hold the lightness of flowers. Beneath the earth, roots tell ancient stories. Twisting, curling, gripping soil for decades, they are often hidden from view, unseen but vital. Yet when lifted gently and placed with care, they become more than remnants of trees past. They become sculptors of space, weaving natural lines into the edges of a garden. Along a cottage front yard path, the roots stand in gentle arcs. Polished by hand, their grain glows with deep earthy tones, like rivers frozen in time. Between them, marigolds rise with fiery brightness, chrysanthemums burst in layered clusters, and asters sprinkle purple stars. The path feels alive, bordered not by brick or metal, but by nature's own artistry, organic, flowing, and timeless. In the backyard, a Japanese-inspired garden leans into the quiet poetry of roots. Here, they twist among moss-covered stones, creating edges that feel almost alive, as if they might shift or grow when no one is watching. Sedum autumn joy glows pink against the weathered bark, while Japanese anemones sway gently, their petals pale against the dark lines of wood. The edging becomes more than function, it is a meditation, a frame where every bloom seems more profound, more graceful. In a tiny yard patio, whimsy emerges. Roots, carefully cleaned and given a light wash of earthy paint, are arranged as playful borders. Herbs grow beside them, rosemary, thyme, and mint, mingling their fragrance with the crisp air. Fall perennials stretch upward, adding layers of vibrant texture. The roots, with their wild curves and sudden turns, look almost like sculptures left by nature's own hand. The space feels personal, intimate, and unique, something no factory mold could ever replicate. Root-sculpted edging is more than decoration. It is a reminder of patience, of strength hidden beneath the ground. It speaks of the unseen, brought to light not for waste, but for wonder. Each curve is different, each edge impossible to replicate, making every garden its own gallery of nature's design. In these yards, tiny, rustic, or expansive, Roots remind us that beauty often lies below the surface, waiting for a chance to rise. With blooms leaning close and colors spilling around them, they whisper softly that even what is hidden, once revealed, can frame the world in unexpected grace. In the heart of a garden, borders do more than divide. They invite the eye, guide the steps, and frame the colors within. What if those borders were not made from stone or brick, but from bottles once forgotten, once discarded as junk? With a coat of paint and a touch of imagination, trash turns into treasure, lining gardens with joy and vibrancy. In a tiny front yard, the effect is playful and bold. Bottles, painted in a rainbow palette, rise upright in the soil. Their glossy colors shimmer under sunlight, echoing the blooms around them. Chrysanthemums glow golden, asters sprinkle purple stars, and marigolds burn bright orange. Together with the bottles, they form a carnival of color, a reminder that gardens can laugh as much as they bloom. Along a backyard patio, the mood shifts to gentleness. Here, the bottles are painted in farmhouse pastels, soft pinks, mint greens, and creamy whites. They line a path with subtle charm, blending gracefully with sedum autumn joy and the airy elegance of Japanese anemones. The edging feels calm and sophisticated, turning simple bottles into frames of rustic beauty. It is a scene where thrift meets grace, a quiet testament to the artistry of upcycling. In a rustic cottage backyard corner, bottles rise at different heights, like a skyline of color. Painted boldly, reds, blues, yellows, they alternate in a playful rhythm near a wooden fence draped with ivy. Asters bloom at their feet, their soft petals contrasting with the shine of the glass. The edging feels alive, dynamic, whimsical, like a garden that knows how to celebrate itself. Color-painted junk bottle borders speak of resourcefulness, but also of joy. They remind us that beauty does not need to be expensive, nor materials pristine. Even what was thrown away can shine again with care and creativity. In tiny yards, in patios, in backyards where space is precious, these borders bring both function and delight. Each bottle holds its own past, once carrying water, soda, or wine, but here, it carries flowers, colors, and the spirit of renewal. To walk a path lined with these borders is to see possibility made real, that in every piece of junk, with vision and paint, lies the chance to bloom again. Fences have always been boundaries, but in the garden, they can also become windows into imagination. Along a simple wooden frame, bottles once destined for the trash shimmer like jewels of the sea. Painted and placed with care, they transform the backyard into a seascape of color and light, echoing the calm of waves and the mystery of the deep. In the backyard, the fence gleams with turquoise, sea green, and sapphire. Bottles in these hues catch the afternoon sun, scattering it in ripples across the flowers below. Marigolds glow like tiny suns, chrysanthemums burst in golden fire, and together they dance with the shifting glow. The fence no longer feels like a barrier. It feels like the edge of an ocean meeting a garden shore. On a small patio, the bottles are more than decoration. They become light. Strung with bulbs, painted in seafoam and aqua tones, they hang like lanterns across the fence. As the sun sets, their glow begins, soft, watery, soothing. Beneath them, asters lift their lavender petals, while sedum autumn joy deepens into rosy shades. Evening tea beneath this fence feels like sitting on a quiet pier, watching the horizon blur between water and sky. In the front yard, transparency brings playfulness. Bottles are strung vertically, shimmering in aquas and blues, swaying with the breeze. When sunlight pours through, it paints the soil in glimmers of ocean glass. Herbs nearby release fragrance into the air, blending freshness with color. Neighbors passing stop to look twice, drawn by the shimmer, charmed by the idea that the sea could live quietly in a garden fence. The Seascape Bottle Light Fence is more than an upcycle, it is an invitation. It tells us that a garden is not only about soil and bloom, but about vision. With bottles, color, and a little imagination, a fence can become a horizon, a reminder of oceans far away, brought near. It whispers of thrift and creativity, of giving discarded glass new tides of meaning. Every garden that holds such a fence becomes not just a space to plant, but a place to dream. For in its glow lies the message, beauty is everywhere, even in what we once let go, waiting to be reborn as light on the shore of our own backyard. At the center of a garden, a gazebo becomes more than shelter. It is a gathering of dreams, a space where stories are told, and where every flower around seems to lean closer. But this is no ordinary gazebo. Its pillars are not carved from wood or cast in stone. They rise instead from painted drums, once forgotten, now alive with color, purpose, and grace. In the rustic backyard, drums stand stacked and sturdy. Painted in terracotta, cream, and deep rustic green, they hold the weight of beams and blooms alike. Around them, chrysanthemums spill their golden cheer, asters bring soft purple stars, and marigolds glow with fire. The gazebo feels timeless, as if it has always been part of the garden, waiting for laughter to fill the air beneath its shade. Step into a cottage garden, and the mood softens. Here, the drums are brushed in lavender, mint, and pale blue. Their pastel tones echo the gentleness of farmhouse life. Ivy climbs steadily up the sides, wrapping the gazebo in leafy embraces. At the edges, sedum autumn joy glows pink while Japanese anemones sway like dancers. In the evening light, the structure becomes a sanctuary, rustic yet delicate, a poem of upcycled charm. In a tiny yard, whimsy takes root. Drums, each painted in bold colors, are stacked in playful rhythms, forming columns that look like sculptures of joy. Herbs grow at their bases, basil, rosemary, thyme, mixing fragrance with the flowers that bloom nearby. The gazebo, though small, feels alive with personality, like a stage for nature's own theater. The gazebo of painted drums is more than an architectural choice. It is a declaration that strength and beauty can emerge from what was once dismissed as waste. Every drum speaks of resilience, every painted surface of creativity. Together, they create a place where people linger longer, where tea tastes sweeter, where sunsets feel closer. For those who walk into this garden, the gazebo is a marvel not because it is perfect, but because it is human, imaginative, resourceful, colorful. It tells of gardens made not with excess, but with care and vision. And under its painted pillars, the garden itself feels transformed, not only in color but in spirit. Patios, no matter how small, are the soul of a home's garden. They are where morning sunlight first touches the earth, where evenings are softened by lantern glow, and where laughter often echoes in the quiet of day's end. And within these spaces, even the simplest things can bloom into wonder, like bottles, once discarded, now painted and planted to create the cutest tiny garden anyone could imagine. On a rustic wooden fence, bottles hang like cheerful lanterns. Painted in pastel tones, pink, mint, sky blue, they cradle marigolds and asters, their colors bursting against the wood. Between them, herbs spill gently, their fragrance mingling with the blooms. The patio feels alive with charm, every bottle a small miracle of renewal, every flower a soft declaration of joy. In a small backyard patio, rows of vertical planters rise. Bottles cut with care stand painted in rainbow hues, catching the sunlight and shimmering like stained glass. From their openings, chrysanthemums burst in golden clusters, while sedum autumn joy leans outward in shades of pink. The effect is a patchwork of color, turning the patio wall into a tapestry of blossoms. It is thrift, artistry, and playfulness woven together into something beautiful. In a tiny yard corner, bamboo shelves hold more bottles, each one a tiny pot of possibility. Some carry Japanese anemones, their petals soft as silk. Others overflow with ivy, trailing downward like threads of green lace. Around the shelves, cottage flowers bloom freely, filling the air with both fragrance and brightness. The bottles, humble in their past, seem proud now, each one a vessel of life, each one glowing with color. The cutest tiny patio bottle garden is proof that small spaces hold infinite wonder. It teaches us that a garden does not need grand plots or endless soil. It can rise from bottles, from color, from the willingness to see beauty in the overlooked. For neighbors, it is a delight to behold. For families, it is a place to gather. For the gardener, it is a story of renewal told through petals and paint. And for every visitor, it whispers a truth as timeless as the flowers themselves, that even in the tiniest of patios, joy can bloom as wide as the world. Every path tells a story, guiding footsteps through a garden while quietly framing its beauty. Some paths are laid in brick, others in stone. But here, where farmhouse charm meets rustic imagination, roots and rocks weave together to create something both wild and welcoming, a pathway that feels alive, as if grown by nature itself. In the front yard, roots intertwine like braids of time. Their rough yet graceful curves cradle smooth river rocks, polished by years of water and sun. Chrysanthemums bloom in golden bursts along the sides, while marigolds glow with fiery orange and asters scatter purple accents. The pathway feels less like construction and more like discovery, like finding a trail through a woodland glade, hidden yet familiar. Step into the backyard, and the scene grows quieter, more meditative. Here, roots polished by hand lie beside small round stones, their textures contrasting yet harmonious. Sedum autumn joy leans across the edges, its rosy hues softening the rugged wood, while Japanese anemones sway above, their petals whispering in the breeze. Walking here feels like entering a poem, every step an invitation to slow down, to notice, to breathe. In a tiny garden patio, whimsy emerges. Roots curve naturally, arranged in playful shapes, filled with gravel and painted stones. Herbs sprout nearby, mingling their scents with the crisp air. Around the path, fall perennials bloom in rich colors, wrapping the walkway in a living tapestry. It is a space both intimate and vibrant, where every step is surrounded by life. The farmhouse route and rock pathway is more than a means to move from one place to another, it is an experience. It celebrates texture, contrast, and the artistry of upcycling. Roots once hidden beneath soil, rocks once scattered along rivers, now find new purpose together. They do not disguise their imperfections, they embrace them, turning irregularity into charm, ruggedness into beauty. For those who walk here, the path offers not only direction but reflection. It tells of resilience, of balance, of how even the roughest materials can form something graceful. In tiny yards, in rustic backyards, in cottage gardens alive with color, this pathway reminds us, the journey itself can be as beautiful as the destination.